Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Tom Worth Jr. Saturday morning here in Texas. And I'm going to talk a little Ukraine today, but mostly Trump being, I would say at this point, uh, the worst president in United States history. Certainly the first anti American president in the history of the country. And, uh, and what I'm kind of tired of is talking heads who say, "Oh, he's enamored with strongmen. Oh, we may be going into a new world order where the spheres of influence for Xi and Asia and Putin and in Europe and Trump can have the Western Hemisphere as their sphere of influence, and Trump talking about Canada and Greenland and Mexico and the Gulf of America and all this ridiculous stuff. And he's just going to leave Europe to Putin and leave Asia to Xi. And they're these strong men with their spheres of influence. And that just gives Trump so much more like that's not what he's thinking. He is the head of a crime family. He is thinking in terms of organized crime, which Putin is a gangster. He is thinking in terms of which parts of New York City are we dividing up, or which parts of whatever. He's not thinking in terms of spheres of influence. He's saying, you're a mobster. I'm a mobster. Let's just be gangsters together. There's no global foresight. There's no national interest here on Trump's part. Now, here's the difference between Trump and his idols, and people like Putin and people like Xi. Those guys, terrible as they are, murderous and dictatorial as they are, just utterly squashing their people along with the rest of the world if they could. Their dream is to make their country great. Putin wants there. I don't think like yes, he wants money, he wants lavish lifestyle, he wants power and whatever, but he wants Russia to be great. He remembers devoting his early life. This is when you're idealistic, right? You're young, you learn things, and you kind of get into your 20s and you're idealistic, and you have an idea of, hey, I could make a difference here. I've learned enough. I'm capable now. I can go help achieve whatever, or help, and it's usually a thing, a higher purpose than yourself. Maybe it's religion, maybe it's a corporation, maybe it's a country. And this is where he was formed. And and in these formative years he saw his dream crumble. And and he wants to put that back together. He wants to put the Soviet Union back together. He is doing this, as warped as it is. I believe he is doing this for Russia. Yes, just like all Russian dictators, all Russian premiers, Soviet premiers, czars, they of course they want to be rich. Of course they want to live in lavish palaces along the sea, and not actually do any real work, and have everyone bow down to them. But what he wants, is for Russia to be great, because he knows they're not a great power anymore. He wants respect. He wants them to dominate. Same with Xi. China, the Chinese mindset, the old Chinese mindset, was one where they were the center of the universe. You're going back a couple thousand years here. It's what the emperor was. He was the center of the universe. And now, on a global stage, China was never a big player. They're a big player where they were 2,000 years ago, and then Europe came along eventually, and things changed. Um, he wants China to be great, but he wants China to not just be great in their own backyard, which is what he's doing, where a lot of the attention is, but he wants China, for the first time in its history, to be the greatest country in the world. And And you can see that he is thinking far. He's doing it way different than Putin is. He has way more resources. He has, if you think about a country roughly almost the same geographic size as the United States, that's what China is, but with 4 times as many people, that's what you're talking about with China. And that's a lot of mouths to feed. So his number one priority is always civil unrest, keeping people, keeping them happy enough just to survive and come out of poverty a little bit. He doesn't want the unrest. And now that he has secured that through decades, Chinese policy opening to the world with his predecessors, they have economic success and they're exporting that to the entire world, and they have been for a couple of decades now. And what Xi has done is turned his head towards the diplomatic front and towards global relations, towards global, not just influence, but domination. So Trump can leave Asia to Xi if he wants to. He can't, but in his mind, he would be okay leaving Asia to Xi. Sure, Japan would have something to say about that. Sure, South Korea would have something to say about that. And Europe to Putin, and the Western Hemisphere to Trump. Say that happens. Who are we leaving out? We're leaving out the continent of Africa, just having huge population growth. They have huge natural resources there, and that's what Xi has his eye on. Russia also is active in Africa. The U.S. has been active in Africa. We're losing ground, and with Trump cutting off U.S. aid, for instance, there goes a lot of what they call soft power in Africa. Trump doesn't care. He's like, I don't care about Africa. I care about the United States. I care about Mexico and Canada. That's all he cares about. And he's doing it to the point where that is becoming, it is detrimental to America, sure, but it is actually against the interests of the United States. It's not just making us weaker, it's attacking us from the inside. And it is because he's not doing this out of a play. There is no lens which we can look through and see what Trump is trying to do to make America stronger. Every single thing he's done is making it weaker. Withdrawing from Europe makes it weaker. Giving more influence to Putin makes us weaker. Losing the trading bloc in Europe and possibly trade relations with Canada and Mexico, that's what he's thrown under the bus, makes us weaker. Dismantling our government makes us weaker. Every single thing, they're even talking about Pete Hegseth is talking, naming all the cabinet posts he did. Every one of them makes America weaker, from Justice, Kash Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, like Pete Hegseth. Every single one of these people makes the United States a weaker nation. That's what he's doing. He's doing it out of a crime lord, mob boss mentality. I need loyalty to me personally. It's nothing to do with America. It's nothing to do with the United States. Not a single action he has taken is in the interest of making the United States a stronger nation. Withdrawing from the world does the exact opposite. Making all of our institutions weaker with weaker leadership does the exact opposite. Dismantling them with no plan whatsoever does the exact opposite. We repeatedly see stories of him firing people, or Doge firing people, and then realizing too late that, not only do we wish we could bring them back, but we don't even have their email addresses to contact them. People who are looking at fighting the avian flu, which is making the price of eggs higher. They're at a historic high. This is just, they're talking about Pete Hegseth cutting the Pentagon's budget 8 to 10%. That's the might of the United States. Defense stocks, which American companies dominate with, our military industrial complex, they tanked on that announcement because not only the Pentagon, it's like the United States military itself, but we supply militaries to our allies around the world. And so if you don't have a Pentagon in place to figure all that out, and deal with all that, then these people aren't going to sell as much arms, as much military equipment. The reason Israel still exists, kind of, is the Iron Dome, the Patriot missiles we provide to them. Like all of those Arab countries wanted them wiped off the map, and they couldn't because they had our literal protective umbrella over their airspace because of the United States. This is what Trump is dismantling. He is anti-America. He is making everything about the United States worse. And unlike the two men he admires most, he's not doing this for his country as they are. You would wish that Xi and Putin would not do it the way they are doing it, but there is no doubt that they have their country's interests top of mind. Yes, they have to protect themselves and enrich themselves personally, but they want their country to be greater. That is the higher purpose that motivates these two dudes to do the terrible things that they do. Trump has no higher purpose. He is his own highest purpose. Joint Chiefs of Staff, he fired two of them last night. The two that aren't white males. The Air Force guy, the Joint Chiefs, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, by all accounts, was an amazing individual. Most people did not expect him to survive Trump and Pete Hegseth because he is for a diverse and inclusive U.S. military. But he's an amazing guy. I don't know about the head of the Navy, the lady in charge of that, but she was let go. Obviously, she's not a male, so Pete Hegseth isn't going to have her heading up the Navy. Every single one of these things are making our country weaker, and I don't like it. All is not lost on the Ukraine front. I said I would get into this a little bit. Mineral deal may be back on. Any sort of a peace plan is going, by all accounts, take months to, once we even agree to anything, which you're not going to do without Zelensky at the table, it's going to take months and months and months to actually enact things, a ceasefire, and then to make Ukraine look like whatever it's going to look like post-war. We did have Keith Kellogg over speaking to Zelensky directly. Now, Keith Kellogg is a special envoy to Ukraine, and he should have been in Riyadh with Marco Rubio. The Russians hate this guy. This guy actually, he was in Trump's first term. He was Mike Pence's advisor. And he did some bad Trumpian things. He said there was nothing wrong with the call that he heard. The call with Ukraine, the quid pro quo that got Trump impeached. One of the times, I always have to say one of the impeachments because there were multiples. He did say that he heard nothing wrong or improper about that call, but also he did tell Trump he needed to stop the insurrection. And when this is kind of weird to me about Keith Kellogg, how he has found a place in this administration, because he is a guy that in the January 6 hearings, almost a year after the fact, testified in a way that wasn't, it laid some blame at Trump's feet. And in that Trump's advisors were telling him to stop it and he wouldn't. This is what this guy testified. So people like that don't ever, anyone remotely on the side of justice and the law in the January 6th debacle would have no place in Trump's administration. So kind of odd that he ended up there. But he actually wants a good deal for Ukraine, and the Russians hate this guy. So they blocked him from attending the talks in Riyadh. They said, we don't like this guy. he can't be there. And so he wasn't there. Um, he's really the only one that would have been capable of kind of articulating what we would like to see on the American interests side of things. And that's a reason why Russia insisted that he not be there. But he did meet with Zelensky after Trump's outrageous lies about Zelensky and dictators and who started the war, popularity, all of that stuff. Kellogg had great things to say about Zelensky. He said he's courageous, said he's a very capable wartime leader. So that's good news. We are that Trump even let him go over there is good news. Now Trump did block him from having a post meeting kind of photo op, press conference kind of thing, which you would usually have when two leaders get together. You stand there on your podiums or sit down in your chairs with your flags behind you. Trump said he can't do that, and that was no question at Putin's command. He doesn't want the Ukrainian people to see. This is what Trump never fails to grasp: the importance of seeing a United States leader sitting down with the leader of your country. It legitimizes you. It gives you a seat at the big boy table. It says the United States that I am worth the time of the United States to come meet with me or to have me as a guest. And Putin could not stomach seeing a United States general, retired general, with an American flag behind him, standing next to Zelensky with a Ukrainian flag behind him. Because that would be all over the Ukrainian media. The people would love that. Putin would not allow that, and therefore Trump would not allow that. That's why you didn't see those pictures. All you got were Keith Kellogg tweets after the fact. But still, he was able to meet. That's encouraging. I still am hoping for an end to the war on whatever terms Zelensky decides he needs to have. But Europe has been ramping up. I was looking at a report on the weapons technologies that Ukraine needs for their effort against the Soviets or against the Russians. They need advanced things, but they've also done their own grassroots military capabilities with the drones. But they're also retrofitting some UK air-to-air missiles. They've retrofitted them to make them surface-to-air so they can float them out on their unmanned boats or unmanned land vehicles, trucks, and launch them at Soviet, Russia. I keep saying Soviet. This is in my head. On a note of Soviets, we've heard that the Russians have lost anywhere from 500,000 to 800,000 people in this war in Ukraine in the last 3 years. Now you get different numbers. Sometimes they're talking about killed. Sometimes they're saying casualties, which is just killed and wounded combined. The numbers I've heard are 500,000 killed on the Russian side and 800,000 casualties. But I have also heard 800,000 killed. I actually heard Bill Browder say that today. So I don't know. It's somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million Russians have lost their lives in the last 3 years. Remember the Soviet debacle in Afghanistan? That lasted almost 10 years, and that almost single-handedly ended the Soviet or the communist rule of the Soviet Union. Like 80 through 79 through 88 maybe. They lost 15,000 people in that conflict. And that almost ended them. They've lost 30 to 30 to 40 times that many here in a third as many years of conflict. So this is what happens when you have a dictator, a one man in charge of the whole thing. You're not answering to the people at all. The Communist Politburo did somewhat. This guy doesn't. So completely controls the media, controls everything. What he says goes. So he's going to stay there as long as he wants to. But some encouraging news coming out of that front with Kellogg meeting, and we'll see where that goes. But as long as Trump is in charge, the most, and as far as I'm aware, the first actively anti-American president in the history of the United States, the damage he continues to wreak. I just worry that Ukraine and our involvement there will be the least of our concerns, like 6 months from now, maybe a year from now. This will be an unrecognizable country by then. We've got a lot of court rulings between now and then to help sort things out. A lot more appointments by him, a lot more tearing down of our society between now and then. But we'll see where all this goes. I hope you guys have a great day today, and we will talk later.